forecast for the week of December 24th, 2024. It's not the last week. It's not the last week. Well, it is the last full week of 2024, but it's not the last forecast that'll have 2020. Who cares? You know what I'm saying. We're waning down to the Capricorn new moon, and so the energy is a little bit more withdrawn. The solar energy, now that we're past the solstice, the solar energy is starting to grow, but you're barely noticing that unless you're in the northern hemisphere at a certain latitude where the shortest sunset, the earliest sunset happens in earlier in December. It depends where you happen to be. But the more northward you go, the more you get a different effect. It's not like you don't care. You don't care. Just look up and see if you care, look up and see where the sun sets. I'm trying to be a little bit more direct with these things. I'm trying to, get right down to the facts. Anyways, the days are getting a little bit longer, but you're not really going to notice because they're very, very short. And the lunar cycle is going downwards towards next week, so you don't get much in the way of light from the moon. And of course, Mars is retrograde. That'll pull us back a little bit, right? That sort of takes a little of the energy out of things. Mercury's direct. That's something. That's something. So we have a couple of things going on this week. Well, we got one big thing going on this week, and that's right on the 24th. That is the square between Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter is retrograde in Gemini, where he's not really loving it. And Saturn is out in Pisces, where, it's kind of a neutral sign for Saturn, but it's Jupiter. It's one of Jupiter's favorite signs. So anyway, the principle of expansion and growth and the planet of restriction and structure and seriousness are kind of at odds with each other here. And what they're doing is they're discussing just about 4 years ago, back at the end of 2020, they met at the very beginning of Aquarius. If you watch regularly, I talk about the 0 degrees of Aquarius, right where Pluto is now. And they sort of set the tone for the next 20 years in terms of social and to extent political, where we are with things. It's very collective. It's where the collective vibe goes. And they sort of set that tone back at the beginning of 2020. And I think Pluto is maybe either furthering or hindering whatever they were putting together. So you think about all the things that Aquarius is having to do with the collective, having to do with usually progressive values, progressive ideals, not values. And so, I mean, we would get off on that foot early in 2020. And, we talked about all the things that happened in 2020, all of the various movements, the rise of unions is, all like the power to the people, masses, the power of the masses type of thing. And that's the shift that has happened with Pluto leaving Capricorn and going into Aquarius. It's now like the power is in the hands of the masses type of thing. All right. And that was part of what was seeded with the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction back in 2020. And now we're just at the evaluation, it's not the evaluation point. It's an evaluation point. How's this going? How are we doing with things? If you're in the US, which I know a lot of you are, well, you can kind of start talking. You got a lot to talk about. If you're anyplace else, you've also got a lot to talk about. I think we have not yet begun to set up a new working reality. The old reality is not working very well. We haven't really set up a new one yet. And I think maybe the question is now. So are we going to set something up or not? What's up? Very big questions for this time of year, right? It's not really, you can look at the news this week and see what happens on, major issues and stuff. Probably not much. Here's something though. Mercury, now direct, is going to aspect Jupiter and Saturn this week. That's keeping the aspect hot through the 25th, 26th, 27th. So Mercury, before he retrograded, right around November 16th to 18th, like right around mid-November, aspected Jupiter and Saturn when he was going forward. And then right around December 6th, 4th, that area over there, aspected him when he was retrograding. And, sort of, it's a redo. And then he's going to aspect them for the last time, this aspect anyway, for the last time this week, right? The 25th, just this week. We don't need to be that specific. So something that started in mid-November had to be redone in early December is maybe perhaps ready to come out of the oven now, right? Ready, it's ready. We're there for completion now. If there, could be something, a mercurial project. It could be a work type of thing. Probably, maybe some message that you had to give to somebody, whatever was around there, but particularly things that have to do with Mercury, things like communication and transportation, technology, some snafus that were a big part of what was going on in mid-November might get a bit of a resolution, or at least, next level kind of thing this week. You want to take a good example of that. Maybe this is a good example of that. The mysterious drones that are flying over the northeastern United States started in New Jersey, and so people didn't pay that much attention. Sorry about that. That's like a joke from my parents' generation. I apologize for that. I really, really do. So I'm ashamed. I would edit that out if, but I'm not gonna. But I will apologize. It's that started right around mid-November, and it hit the papers. It hit news right around December 4th to 6th. I went back and checked the Times and and some other sources to see when it started to become a story. And so maybe this week we'll get some sort of an answer. It's been a really kind of, I mean, it's not that great because they're clearly not extraterrestrials. There's no flying saucer type of thing. They're drones. And yet the official government response has been very much the same, right out of the whole UFO playbook, right? It's like, well, it's Venus, it's a plane. And you have like officials, mayors, and police officers. We know what a plane looks like. It's not a helicopter. It's a drone. This is a different thing. Like, no, and then this is my favorite part of the whole story here. Then they say, well, they're not posing any kind of a threat. Well, not yet. And yet, Stewart International Airport up in Orange County, about an hour or so, well, in the New York area. I don't know, traffic, there's no such thing as an hour or so somewhere between an hour and 3 hours north of New York City. Stewart, trying to stick to the point. Yeah, well, it's like the holiday forecast. Nobody's really watching anyway, right? So, Stewart International Airport had to close for an hour because of the drones. So it's not like they haven't been causing problems. And there's been a few other things that have had to close and other incidents, that it's not like they haven't been causing a certain amount of trouble, But I was like, no, it's nothing to worry about. Go back to sleep. Everything is fine. It's really, really kind of weird. And I mean, and these are just drones. I mean, somebody's flying the things, it's not unless they're Martian drones, I suppose. But anyways, that is the story that may get some kind of a resolution this week. Then we're waning down into the Capricorn new moon. That's fairly, we'll cover that on next week's forecast. But we have a very, very waning, tired Sagittarius moon for the weekend. Well, it's still the Sagittarius moon, so it sort of bodes well, but I think folks may be a little tuckered out after the holidays, and or the holiday season. You don't have to celebrate. It's just the holiday season itself tuckers people out. Tuckered is a word that's from, I guess, my parents' generation too. Um, yeah. Anyways, where was I with that? The one aspect that we have that I think is more exciting is on Friday. And again, the moon is waning, so the most exciting aspect is, meh. But Venus in Aquarius is going to square Uranus in Taurus. Now, Venus, planet of values, planet of relationship and love, decorum, and all of those types of things in Aquarius, and Uranus, change and wanting to, revolutionize things, do things differently. And so Venus is in Aquarius, which is Uranus's home sign, and Uranus is in Taurus, which is Venus's home sign. So it's like they're calling each other from each other's houses. And so, although this is a tense aspect, it actually is relatively smooth. Right? They're able to communicate. They're sort of speaking the same language here. And so it's an indication that we can positively try something new, do things a little bit differently. Um, you don't have to follow, and especially at this time of year, while the sun is in Capricorn, there's a lot of tradition around this time of year. This aspect suggests we don't really need to be all that traditional. We don't need to follow tradition all that much. We can kind of do our own thing. You can kind of break out of the pattern, and it's sort of like everything will be okay with that. It's not going to be disruptive if you move things around a little bit. That might extend to anything that, any of the holiday festivities that are happening between Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and New Year's, because everything is into this thing. And if you don't celebrate any of those, yes, again, you still, you might find yourself at the office holiday party regardless. Anyway, it suggests the ability to break out of established patterns when it comes to socializing and romance. And for those of you who are creative, and everybody is, and everybody should be, there's an opportunity to take a new tack with that as well. I mean, of course, Mars is retrograde and new moon and stuff like that, but it gives you a little bit of freedom in some things that we often feel are a little constrained. All right, one more forecast to go in 2024, and then next one after that.